You could feel the tension in college football shifting long before the memo became official, the kind of behind-the-scenes power play that always seems to surface when the sport reshapes itself. The college football playoff has never been just about wins and losses. It has always been about politics, perception, television money, and which brands carry the most weight when rooms full of executives start drawing lines that decide who gets a shot at a national title and who gets left watching from home. Now, with the CFP locking in its next evolution, those forces collided again, and right in the center of it stands Notre Dame, protected by a brand new clause that guarantees the Fighting Irish a playoff berth anytime they finish inside the top 12. Starting next season, the formula will look clean on paper. The champions of the Power Four conferences automatically punch their ticket, the highest-ranked group of 6 champion joins them, and if Notre Dame, college football's last great independent power, lands in the top 12, they're in. No debate, no bumping, no late-night committee drama. 5 automatic spots before at-large bids are even considered, with Notre Dame essentially treated as its own protected entity. For some, it feels like stability. For others, it feels like favoritism wrapped in tradition. And for Dave Portnoy, it felt like a breaking point. The Barstool Sports founder didn't ease into his reaction or dress it up in cautious analysis. He went straight for the jugular, voicing what a large segment of the college football world has quietly muttered for years, that Notre Dame continues to receive special treatment for refusing to fully join the system everyone else plays by. Portnoy's frustration poured out as he dissected the new clause, calling it absurd, unnecessary, and the clearest example yet of what he sees as white-glove handling for one of the sport's most recognizable brands. In his mind, rewarding Notre Dame for remaining independent while every other powerhouse grinds through conference schedules and championship games sends the wrong message entirely. Win your league, he argued, and you deserve your shot. That part makes sense. But carving out a special lane just for Notre Dame, that's where the logic collapses. The anger wasn't just philosophical, it was practical. Portnoy pointed to exactly how this season would have played out under the new rules. Miami, which beat Notre Dame head-to-head and eventually rode that momentum all the way to the national championship game, would have been pushed aside. The Hurricanes would have done everything right on the field, only to lose their seat at the table because a protected clause guaranteed Notre Dame a spot simply for sitting inside the top 12. That scenario is what fuels the outrage. Not just that Notre Dame gets in, but that someone else who proved it on the field could get left out because of it. The irony is thick. Notre Dame opened the season by losing to Miami and Texas A&M, stumbling out to an 0-2 start that raised real questions about whether the Irish were playoff material at all. To their credit, they responded like a proud program does, ripping off 10 straight wins and forcing their way back into the national conversation. But even during that run, critics kept circling the same issue, the schedule. Outside of USC, Notre Dame's resume lacked a signature win against an elite opponent. The victories piled up, but the strength of competition didn't stack up the same way it does for teams navigating the SEC or Big Ten every week. And when Selection Sunday came around, it ultimately came down to Notre Dame versus Miami, with the Hurricanes holding the head-to-head edge and the stronger late-season momentum. Miami got the nod, and Miami proved the committee right by tearing through the playoff and reaching the title game. Under the new clause, that storyline never happens. That's what makes this rule feel so disruptive to people like Portnoy. It doesn't just tweak the system, it rewrites real outcomes. His argument goes deeper than one season, though. It's about the principle of competition itself. Everyone else, from Alabama to Ohio State to Texas to Florida State, must survive conference gauntlets, championship weekends, and the risk of extra losses just to secure their spot. Notre Dame, meanwhile, remains free to craft an independent schedule, avoid conference title games altogether, and now receive a built-in safety net as long as it stays within the top 12. To critics, that's not independence, that's advantage. Portnoy questioned what leverage Notre Dame supposedly holds in these negotiations. If the CFP didn't offer this clause, what exactly would the Irish do? Walk away from the playoff entirely? Operate as some rogue national brand playing exhibition seasons while everyone else competes for championships? The idea feels unrealistic, and that's why the concession feels unnecessary. From his perspective, the CFP didn't need to bend. Yet, bend it did. Behind the scenes, the clause traces back to a memorandum of understanding hammered out well before this season even unfolded. As the Power Four conferences fought for revenue control and automatic bids, Notre Dame quietly protected its place in the evolving structure. The result is a playoff model where the SEC and Big Ten dominate financially, the Big 12 and ACC take smaller slices, the group of six gets one guaranteed seat, and Notre Dame secures its own pathway without ever joining a conference. It's business, but it's business layered directly onto competitive outcomes. And that's always where controversy explodes in college football. Supporters of Notre Dame argue that the Irish already play national schedules, draw massive viewership, and historically proven they belong on the sport's biggest stage. They argue that independence has always been a part of the program's identity, not a loophole to exploit. They argue that if Notre Dame finishes in the top 12, not top 20, not borderline, then they've earned their spot just like anyone else. But critics counter that rankings are subjective, shaped by perception, brand value, and narrative just as much as on-field results. And Notre Dame's brand has always carried weight in those rooms. The new clause doesn't just reflect respect for tradition, it codifies protection for one of college football's most powerful names. What makes the situation even more volatile is that the playoff is already crowded before at-large bids are considered. With 4 Power 4 champions and one group of 6 champion automatically in, half the field is essentially pre-filled. Add Notre Dame's guaranteed slot when ranked high enough, and the margin for everyone else shrinks fast. One upset in a conference title game, one late-season injury, one controversial ranking shift, and suddenly a deserving team is on the outside because a protected clause removed flexibility. That's the future Portnoy and others are reacting to. It's not that Notre Dame shouldn't make the playoff when it earns it. It's that the system now ensures Notre Dame is treated differently from every other program in America. College football has always wrestled with balancing tradition and fairness, brand power and competitive integrity. The playoff was created to settle arguments, to give champions a clear path instead of endless debates. Yet every expansion seems to introduce new layers of politics that make the arguments louder than ever. This clause is simply the latest flashpoint. For Notre Dame, it represents security in a rapidly shifting sport. Independence no longer comes with playoff risk. The Irish can remain who they've always been while still having a guaranteed doorway into the championship race. For everyone else, it feels like one more reminder that in college football, not all resumes are judged equally. The field may be expanding, the opportunities may be growing, but power still shapes the rules. And as voices like Dave Portnoy grow louder, the real question isn't whether Notre Dame will benefit from this clause. It almost certainly will. The question is how many seasons it will take before a deserving team is left out. A playoff run never happens, and the sport is forced once again to confront whether tradition should outweigh competition. Because in college football, the only thing more predictable than controversy is that